So this is a kind of a busy one, but this is looking at the traffic. If you drop all these homes in on that southwest corner, the only way for the people to get to Walmart, to get to Publix, to get to the movie theaters, to get to the restaurants is straight by Sean's house on 561. And I can tell you from coming to the other, meetings for the gas station, the folks on Lakeshore are fed up. The roads maybe it's not technically out of capacity yet, but it's darn close. Pam Richmond says, we know the section of 561 has issues, won't be fixed anytime soon. Nearby roads such as Lakeshore are at or near full capacity. So I don't know why we would think about dropping, another couple hundred homes in there. Next, please. This is a visual of the property. It would be on the left, the question. You got a blind curve. People fly through here. Yeah, it says 35 there, but I can tell you nobody does it. We have neighbors at the bottom of the hill that can tell you about their mailboxes getting taken out. And one of them said this morning they have to roll their window down, listen for traffic before they pull out of their driveway to make sure they don't get killed on this. So this is a dangerous spot right here.
Talking about the cyclist accident at all?
Yeah, and that's right. This is also on the cyclist route for National Training Center, or NTC it's called now. This is one of their paths, so the bikers are on this all the time. 25, the entrance of the cars right near a blind curve seems like a bad idea. Next. And then there's another view from I'm killing this to death, but there's a view coming from the other direction, and you can see where 1,200 cars would be dumping out onto the road. Our schools, it looks like there's some sidewalks now being started, which is great. We applaud that, of course. But these, with the portables there, it makes it look like it's hardly under capacity. Next. Now this is, I was actually happened to be driving home from the bank one afternoon and working for my wife, and I'm making a left, and I look down, or I'm trying to make a left, and I look down to the right, and these were people trying to pick up their kids at school.
Yeah.
And so, as you can see, it was stopped as far as you could see. Next picture.
Doug, you're sure that wasn't a real famous person died down there?
Yeah, no. That was just people trying to get to school.
I will tell you that at DeVery's Elementary School, sometimes I've stayed, 20 minutes? That is a long time. I agree with that.
So, we'll go back. So there's a view to the left. Again, people trying to get into the Pine Ridge School. All right? So now what happens? School bus driver crossing the double yellow line to get the school bus back to the school on a 55-mile-an-hour road. I'm sitting there going, that's amazing. I need to get that picture. I said, what could be better than that? Next slide.
Man.
The second bus making a left-hand turn, crossing a double yellow. The poor bus drivers are desperate because the roads are just jammed. Sorry.
Now, I was just saying that you must have been a private investigator in your earlier life. I mean, you've got the pictures, man.
Thank you. And I also got lucky one morning. I came out and there was the kids doing the study, which I think they reported to this board this summer, and about, the kids are trying to help fix the area there and make it safer.
Please, I'll still have a chance for that later, right? Yeah? Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
It depends on how nice you are.
Okay. I can be nice.
I can see you're nice.
Mr. Shields did a fantastic job, but he's not a fantastic photographer. That happens every day. He didn't have to catch that. That happens every day. Those
well,
buses.
I sure overestimated him.
Yeah, exactly. You could come out there every afternoon or every morning for that matter, and I'm not blaming the car rider people, the parents, or anything. Pine Ridge is the way they designed it. They did not design it for all those homes to be there and for all those kids to go there. And I love the 9% under capacity. So we have about 850 kids. So about 79, I'm a math teacher, about 79 more kids can come. 168 houses, and you only get 79. And Lost Lake is over capacity. So guess where their overflow is going to come? To Pine Ridge. So just like that, we have all those portables back in there, and we're over. And South Lake High School, although they're 35% under, their lines have changed. I know, I sat on that committee. So in the next 3 years, their population is going to go up and up and up without these homes. Just keep that in mind.
I gave Doug 20 minutes.
If this application or future land use amendment was for 300 plus units, I would say no. I believe that the use of central water and sewer needs to be included in this because that's what we're trying to do, is protect our environment. We don't have that now with the existing zoning as evidenced by all the numbers on the sheet there. I think changing the lots to 15 on the lake, I think also was a protective measure. This is a difficult decision because we're in this crazy transition in Lake County where we want to grow. We want to make sure we're protecting our environment, and I believe that this is a project that this probably will be the last subdivision in this area to the best of my knowledge based on looking at the future land use. I would, and I believe this is a difficult decision. There's great people out there. I will tell you, without your input, I think this would have gone at 300 and some odd units because the other units in the area are R6, which would justify 3 to 1, and we've got this one down to 1.8. So I believe that we should approve this and with the obligation that the PUD be included as part of the approval process.
I need you to make...
And I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Okay.
The motion,
Discuss.
the motion includes that the timing of the PUD and the final adoption will be together.
Correct.
That's my understanding, right? Okay, so this is the transmittal hearing. They would both, it would come back for final adoption along with the PUD approval all at one time. That's what you're requesting in the motion. Okay. I've driven, living here my whole life, I've been down there a lot, but driven this particular case 3 times in the last probably 6 months. And as aggravating as it is, the land use request is consistent with the surrounding development. This is, in my opinion, Commissioner Sullivan, this is it for any development of density. This is the southern border. This is it. And I hope other property owners are hearing that I don't think anything's going to happen south of there of any significance. The idea of adding additional units on septic tank like the other development is would be a deal breaker for me. If it didn't involve the utilities there, then I wouldn't be able to support it because of the development pattern that we have approved over the years that allowed those septic tanks has not done anything to help that lake, and I would hate for us to do anything that would make it any worse, and additional septic tanks would. But the utility requirements we're going to have in the PUD, and again, I know it's aggravating, but it is consistent with the development pattern in that area, and so I intend on supporting it.
Can I weigh in this discussion about, I'd like to use the opportunity to offer an alternative point of view. The issues that I've heard presented and that I've read in the emails we've received, the issues as I've identified them based on what everybody has talked about today and what they've written to us about compatibility, the lake access, concern about the lake, the lot width on the lake, again, compatibility, lot sizes in the subdivision, which, I mean, everybody uses the word density, but really it's about kind of how big the lots are and whether it seems to be consistent. obviously traffic, the issue of septic systems versus central sewer, and then this concept of the comprehensive plan and when it's appropriate to amend the comprehensive plan after it's already been set into motion. And I think that's probably one of the most compelling arguments that I've heard today in light of the location of this property in relation to the green swamp and the rural areas nearby. The idea that existing development patterns should drive the development pattern of this property, I'm seeing it very differently. I know sometimes when we have cases and we're in higher density areas, it makes sense. Infill. You say, okay, we've already developed it this way, this is a development pattern, it makes sense. Here, I'm reading this comprehensive plan about rural transition and using conservation-based development as a way to create that buffer, to have that transition. And I'm more inclined to think that this 1 unit to 1 acre with 50% open space is the type of thing that would actually work very nicely in this type of a situation. And so, I kept working these numbers out, trying to figure out what you would come up with at 1 unit to 1 acre. If you applied it to the 78 net acres, that'd be 78 units. If you applied it to the 103 total they have, it would be 103 total units. 50% open space, that would be roughly like half-acre lots. You could actually come up with, a really nice neighborhood design that would complement the area. You could use the PUD as a way to address the lake access issues as far as making sure that you're not putting too much activity on the lake. The one thing though about conservation design that I think everybody needs to be aware of is that I've never seen a conservation-based design neighborhood where a natural resource such as the lake wasn't allowed to be enjoyed by everyone. However, they typically require that it be passive, so that if you don't have the actual lake access, if you don't have a lot on the lake, you could use it to sit on a dock, look at the lake, you could launch a canoe or a kayak, swim, but you couldn't actually put a boat in. Whereas if you had owned a lot, you could use it. So that would be a way to you'd have to work out a compromise with the neighbors and make sure everybody feels comfortable with that. But again, now as far as septic and central sewer, it probably would be difficult economically, financially to go to central sewer, but with half-acre lots you wouldn't have to. It depends on whether everybody thinks that that's such a critical issue in light of the fact that you already have so many septic tanks around this area. If you're looking at 100 more septic tanks versus we'll approve 200 units so we can have central sewer. I don't know if that really makes a whole lot of sense to say, yeah, it makes it all better if we just put it on central sewer. So I just think that this is an opportunity where you could actually come up with something that would be much more of a transition and that it would be more compatible and it would be something that would protect the lake and it would lower the traffic counts. No question about it. The lower number of lots you have, yes, it's going to be more traffic than you have now. You already have problems, but it would lower the impact. So this would be a solution to at least lowering that impact.
Can I ask a question? Because you were talking about development patterns and development styles. What would be the underlying land use you would utilize that would let them do that without overreaching what the intent was? NAP, I understand that kind of stuff could be done in a PUD, but what would be the underlying land use?
It's rural transition.
Transition, yeah.
For the whole parcel?
Yeah, 1-to-1 with 50% open space.
Yeah, and then the only other way to create, if you wanted to create a little more flexibility in it, you would have to do some type of a comp plan overlay or a comp plan designation that was specific for this property. That's the only difficult thing about this is that it does tie your hands if you use rural transition and if you're going to go in that direction, it might be good to go back to the drawing board and see if you could actually...
If you just went directly to rural transition, there's no incentive for them to do what you're thinking would be better at the end of the day. I'm trying to...
They still have to do a PUD, though.
Right.
So,
Right.
so you have an opportunity there to address these specific things that the neighborhood, that neighbors would like to see with regard to the lake.
You want me to go? Okay. First of all, I appreciate the presentations today. Doug, you did a great job. Those pictures are very telling. Appreciate everybody coming out and supporting your government. So it's good to see everybody here today, for or against. And I also want to compliment the applicant, Anita, specifically. Anita is a great attorney. Her word is gold, so I know that she's really tried to take this as far as she can go, doing it the right way, I should say. I do appreciate her comments too about the sidewalks. That is a very big and important issue in that area, getting sidewalks and mobility to that school. Unfortunately, right now, I'm not going to support the motion that's on the table. There's a lot that's right about what's been proposed, but it's just not enough at this time for me. There's some outstanding issues in the region, and I know some of those very well. I do live within the region, very close to this, actually on Lakeshore, not on 561, but I do know that Lakeshore traffic is a mess, and Lakeshore is a very, very big issue. I think before we go further with development in that area, and I know this may sound insulting to some, but the growth out there that you've seen is a result of poor planning. There's been a lot of piecemeal growth, at times lack of thought that's gone into that area, and some of that we're seeing today, Lakeshore in particular. There's some issues there, and I also think that there is. I would like to see some more of the specifics tied to. For this, we're asking, the applicant's asking obviously for a land use change. I would like to see some more of the specifics about the design, particularly low impact development. This is something the Commission has talked about, that we want to, if we're going to go forward, as we go forward with developing residential in particular in our county, that we would incorporate low impact design. And there's still some questions, although it's a good plan and there are a lot of good things that are proposed in the development. There's still some outstanding questions as it pertains to what would be incorporated into this subdivision design for low impact development. The easement issue is still something that it's outstanding. I know that you probably could get that addressed, but without that, there's no certainty. We don't have that easement issue addressed right now for the utilities. And I guess just in summary, I'd like to see, I would have liked to have seen at transmittal. I know it's been discussed that maybe we could look at the PUD at adoption, but I would like to have seen it at transmittal, which is today.
Commissioner Cadwell.
Can I ask a question? Commissioner Campbell, on some of your suggestions, you were not, I want to word this right, you were not suggesting we do this on the fly here with this one. You're saying that it would be better served to come back as a...
Yeah, I think that if I would recommend that rural transition, if we're going to use a land use designation, we already have, that rural transition be used, okay? Probably the most advisable thing to do, though, would be to step back and have them work that, what that would look like, so everybody knows and make sure everyone's comfortable with what that would ultimately achieve, and so that everyone goes into it eyes wide open. If the developer were to come back and say, well, here's some problems, we've encountered some problems doing this, we can't even address some of the issues that the residents want to see addressed with that, and they might propose an actual land use overlay. So I think there's some room here to get everyone where they want to be without having to make a decision today. And I hate that, because I know everybody wants closure, but I'd hate for there to be closure and it be something that's the wrong decision that you have to live with for a long time and has really bad impacts on the area.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because we have done that before, trying to make decisions like this on the fly in regards to changing what the request is, and that's not what you're suggesting at all.
Right. And if we leave today with the feeling that, or with a commitment that 1 unit to 1 acre is basically where we're going with 50% open space with maybe some tweaks and things, then everybody's pretty comfortable that we're not going to come back and see, 3 units to the acre being proposed. We have a pretty good idea of what it would look like when it comes back.
So, go ahead, Mr. Commissioner.
So what would be the process to do that?
That was,
So I'm used to, here's the zoning, here's the land use, so
you talking about delaying it, or what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
that's what you'd have to do.
You'd either have to delay it or deny it, and they would have to reapply, and I would,
You could continue it, yeah.
Sandy, tell us the options.
Well, one alternative also would be to move it forward as rural transition, to see if they could work that. So we approve it today for transmittal at rural transition, which would be 1-to-1. Then if they develop the problems, they could come back in and have to refile after that.
transmit it today at rural transition, that's 1-to-1 with the open space language in there also.
Yeah.
Chris,
So,
you want to answer that question, what rural...
But Sandy, I mean, I'm more comfortable having it figured out before you transmit,
Yeah.
you know?
I would just say, in being fair to everyone, the applicant and the citizens, that, so everyone would understand the process from here
Well,
and not cause these,
let's talk about the process, okay? Sandy, what other alternatives are there other than,
Well, the other two alternatives would be to deny it, in which case they'd have to refile with
okay, well,
plan,
that's
or-
not what I'm hearing.
or to postpone it with the direction that they come back in accordance with Commissioner Campion's suggestions.
Well,
or transmit at 1-to-1?
Or to transmit it as the rural...
the only downside I see to that is,
to which one?
one, to just transmitting it today at 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Without that PUD there, all of us have said we want to see the PUD.
Yeah, see-
We'd like to see what's going to be on the ground in the development as opposed to just the land use.
You would see that, though, at adoption, because the PUD's been filed. It would just
Correct.
have to be amended, and you'd see it at adoption, both the PUD and the comp plan amendment.
Well, let me, go ahead.
so the best, to follow that line of thought, then I need to withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
Ask to transmit it at rural transition.
Well, hang on just a minute. Do you withdraw your motion?
And I withdraw my second.
So you would, okay, so the motion and the second are withdrawn.
Okay, my motion withdrawn, so in order to do this, because rural transition is obviously what we need to do, so I would make a motion that
We're delaying this, right?
we delay this program, but, well, we need to go forward with the land use amendment, and we need to do it at rural transition. And with the PUD to be brought back for approval at, after the
At adoption.
adoption.
So the next time this came,
All right, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we,
Oh, okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we continue with the recommendation that it come back as rural transition with a proposed PUD included with the transmittal.
PUD at transmittal?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second for
Okay.
discussion, but just to have note that the applicant will note all of, I rattled off some concerns, I know the other commissioners did too, but keep those in mind when it comes to the PUD, the low impact design, some of those issues, right?
can I ask a quick question? This, as far as procedurally, this motion is a continuation of the hearing we're in now on this case, right? I mean, it's a continuation of this case. Right? Okay.
Quick question, would you be looking to continue it to the next cycle then? We're in a cycle now, and then adoption would be in December, so then the next cycle would be first quarter next year, which would be April. I just wanted to clarify, because we have 2 cycles here.
Sandy, is that necessary?
I don't think you would have to postpone it.
Okay, the answer is no.
We just spent the cycle. Got it.
Okay.
So we're talking
But
about,
we're not submit, I want to make sure I understand the motion. I've tried to talk last, so the motion on the table, we're not transmitting anything today. Commissioner Campione? You made the motion.
Right, I did.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So we're not transmitting anything today. We're not approving anything today. We're trying to give the two parties the opportunity to try to find something. Is that what you're saying, or?
Well, I mean, the way that this would work would be the application itself would be changed to be rural transition, and then the applicant would put together a proposed PUD working with staff of conditions that would be included with the PUD. That would come back to us the next time that we review this, would be looking at a proposed PUD in conjunction with rural transition land use on this property.
See, one of the things that when I was meeting with Anita that, you know, that came to light would be, and I'm speaking for myself, I'd rather have, I mean, it's just me, don't yell at me, but I'd rather have more $250,000 houses than less $75,000 houses. You know, I really would. But that doesn't mean that I want, you know, 4 to an acre either. You know, I was not, based on what I've heard today, I wasn't intended on voting to transmit anything. I'll just tell you that. But, and because I'm uneasy with the density, I couldn't vote for the density that, or the number of units that are before us right now. But I asked Doug yesterday, what's the right number? And I don't think that any of us have the right number yet. But Mr. Crawford and Anita, they can work well together. And I personally, if I understand it as well as I hope I do, I think what Commissioner Campione has offered is a fair step to both parties. Yeah, that old brain's working today, isn't it, Commissioner?
but the,
Vote coming out of that.
Huh?
but we're not transmitting anything today. This is just, this same hearing will continue, but we're going to do it in this cycle so everyone would have an answer before
And
the end of the year.
With the clear direction, though, that it's going to come back as rural transition and the PUD at the same time.
Right.
And the thing about it is that both parties, you know, sometimes people can get real nasty in these kinds of things, and y'all know how to make nice good, and that means a lot to me. And also, after talking to Doug, I do think that he's not taking a position, build a wall and don't build anything. And so I will say it again, from my perspective, I think what Commissioner Campione has come up with is the right thing to do today. I really believe that. So is there any other discussion up here?
No, just one other comment. Again, just to be clear, the bar is going to be pretty high for me. I'm just being direct to the applicant. I mean, look at those pictures of the road and the shape that 561 is in Lakeshore, and you know, it's hard to picture another subdivision going on. And I know some of that's not the developer's fault. It's through poor planning, but again, just full disclosure, I'm looking for a very high standard when it comes back to us. So.
Okay. Likewise. All right, is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will be taking a break. I think impact fees, am I correct? That's the next item on the agenda. I would ask anyone that wants to speak on impact fees to please get a card turned in and we're going to take a break until 11:15. Thank y'all for coming.